This is the Under the Ring Report. And now, the only two wrestling fans in the world who absolutely understood everything that came out of the Ultimate Warrior's mouth, John the Flesh Wound, and Cousin Tom.
Welcome back to the Under the Ring Report. With me, as always, my co-host, Tom. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm just laughing because what we were talking about before we went on the air. Why don't you tell everybody what you're doing right now?
Oh, I'm currently doing dishes because I'm domesticated.
She lets him go to All In, but he has to do the housework.
Hey, every man's got to eat.
That's true. But that's not what we're here to talk about this week. I know it's been a few weeks since it's happened, but we've just now had a chance to get together, and we'd like to talk about the reinstatement of Hulk Hogan into the WWE. Tom,
yeah, brother.
Yeah. If you want to go first, man, that's fine, because I know you are a big Hulk Hogan fan.
Yeah, lifelong Hulkamaniac here. I mean, that was pretty much, he was the reason I became obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts are, and I've been thinking about this since it happened, and some of the backlash and everything else. My thoughts are this. The first thing I thought of is when they banned him, or I guess you call it banishment from the WWE.
Yeah.
When it was announced, the first thing I thought is, okay, you're banishing this guy for something he said on a hidden video, which, I might be one of the few. I haven't seen the video. I haven't even seen heard the words that the man said. I've had no interest in looking it up.
Okay.
I've just heard and read what people have reported, but it just doesn't interest me to find out, honestly.
All right.
When they did it, I'm like, okay, I get it. They're publicly traded now. They've got to say, okay, we don't stand for that, which I totally get. I have no problem with that aspect of it. The problem I have is who you have in your Hall of Fame that have done other things worse than using a racial epithet or something like that. I mean, you have a convicted rapist in Mike Tyson that constantly gets praised.
Yep.
I mean, the man is a convicted, spent time in jail for raping another person, but he's in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so Superfly went to trial for murder. I mean, and we know in the history of pro wrestling, these guys are not angels by no means, for a lot of them. And they all have checkered histories. They all have things that they've done. And our society now, everyone is so quick with both social media it's almost like a lynch mob mentality. As soon as something happens, everyone's like, get him, get him, get him, get him. And then so they hurry up, they pull the trigger, and then they have to let everything kind of blow over before they're able to go back to it. So my initial thought was, okay, I understand it, but it's a little much. I mean, Hulk Hogan, WWE, pretty much synonymous. The whole wrestling boom of the 80s wouldn't have happened without Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. And how you can just think that you're going to wipe out all that by banning him, I just didn't understand.
Okay. And I kind of have some of the feelings there. Number one, I get exactly why they had to take him. And if you want to call it a suspension now, after it's been 3 years, they had to do that. They had to fire him because being a public trade company, that's a terrible thing that can come down on you and all your stockholders, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. Number two, you have to distance yourself no matter what, because I did see part of the video, and you know what? Even though it was something he was doing in private, still a very heinous thing to say about individuals, and from what they've said, this wasn't the first time. There's supposedly conversations between him and his son when his son was in jail where he mentioned certain things. I don't know, but it's been reported out there. So there's a couple different instances where, a guy of that stature, you want to be better. You know what I mean? If I've looked at you as a hero, as a role model growing up, which a lot of people did, you always hope that role model stays at that level you put them on. And I mean, there's no way in hell any person can stand a pedestal that they're put up on that high, but you hope at least they can sort of be right around there. And in that instance, that's why it's very disappointing. Even if it's in private, it's disappointing that something like that gets out in the public and you hear a person that you considered, you consider this person a role model and someone you look up to using words like that. And because if you think about how much of an impact he's had on so many people's lives, that's the part that sucks, because being in that position, you need to be smart. You need to be very smart what you do. And in this day and age, people say stuff in the private of their home, and it could be anything. It may not be racial. It may be whatever, but you say that and you don't think anyone will ever hear it. Unfortunately for Hulk Hogan, everybody and their brother got to hear it. So
yeah,
maybe people in that instance can use that as a way to look and everybody try to be better.
Right.
We don't need that.
Right. Well,
so I kind of compare this, and my wife and me had the same conversation in that Paula Deen, and she used the N-word to people that were working with her. And you know what? That caused her to lose everything. And in that instance, it was done in public, and why use these words? So in an instance, what she got, she deserved. And unfortunately for Hulk Hogan, the bad part about it is that he received punishment for something he said that he thought no one would ever hear. And It doesn't make it better when it makes it in the public. It doesn't make people go, well, maybe he's not a racist. Well, I don't know about that. But I feel bad of all the things that happened to him because he said something in a private conversation that he felt never was going to go. And that's kind of where I am. And I guess what we could talk about is that and how going forward, that's going to affect the WWE and what they do with him.
Right. Well, and the other thought I had, it's one thing, you'll hear a lot of people say, well, who hasn't said something that they've regretted? Who hasn't said something where they thought, it's okay to say this with my buddies because no one else is going to hear it? I mean,
Major League Baseball right now, these people being hit with Twitter being stupid, saying stuff when you're young kids and thinking, hey, I'm just making fun of a rap or whatever. And it comes back to bite you later. Those are instances too, where we always don't make the best judgment calls. I mean, that's unfortunately part of life and why we are human. Everybody does something stupid.
Well, and the thing about being a public figure is, you have to consider all those things. That's part of being part of the con side or the pro side. You have all these extra advantages to being a public figure, but then, I wouldn't say your personal freedom's taken away, but it's kind of limited because everyone wants to know what you're doing, and then you're under a microscope. We've all said and done things that we should have never said or done, and most of us have regretted doing, but we've never had those type of repercussions because most people don't know it.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, though, now is the time. I know he's already started trying to right the wrong, I guess you would say. I know there was the Boys and Girls Club stuff that he did, and those things had to be done in order for him to get back in with the WWE. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more in the future in order to continue.
That's funny.
I can't catch a break.
That's okay. No, I see what you're saying there too. And as I talk about how it's done in private, you hit kind of party on that too, though, because he's still to blame. Because number one, it's very terrible what he said. But being a celebrity, he should also have been smart enough not to be saying that type of stuff anyway. You know what I mean? Right. You never know in this day and age what's going to happen. And I'm not saying that, he should have been smart if he was going to be a racist, do it in the quiet. What I'm saying is, there are a lot of people that have weird feelings or weird thoughts about stuff. We don't need to know about it. And even if you're whatever, you don't need to tell people everything about yourself because you know what? It could come back to bite you. And
And in today's day and age, you remember when we were kids, we did stupid stuff. Nobody had a phone to document it. The stuff we did as teenagers, and I would never in a million years take photos of so my parents could find out about later on.
Very true.
And nowadays, my kids especially, they document everything they do from the minute they get out of bed till the time they go back to bed.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of, the old Orwell 1984 book, where Big Brother's watching you. Mm-hmm. If you go out anywhere, if you go to like a baseball game, you might as well figure you have however many people in that stadium, someone's got eyes on somebody at all times because there's photos, video, live Facebook video feeds. I mean, there's no such thing as privacy anymore. And especially if you're a public figure, you might as well keep your lips sealed because someone somewhere is videoing you or taking a picture of you when you're not watching.
And that is the biggest problem is that people don't think. And especially in his position, you have to be a smart person, Right. And that's the whole point that you get across. But if we move ahead to WWE actually putting him back in, and my own thoughts on this is, I've got no problem acknowledging him once again as a Hall of Famer. What I feel, though, is that he's got a perfect opportunity right now in the WWE. I don't want to see him show up on programming or be on this or that, show up at a pay-per-view. What he needs to do is take his opportunity and try to make things better for people. You know what I mean? Get out there and try and teach people that, you know what, you don't need to talk about everything in the world and tape everything, because one wrong mistake could pretty much tumble everything you've built up over your life. You know what? And also try and show a little remorse. And from what we heard when people were talking, he was more upset that he got caught on video than he was sorry for saying what he said. And that came from a few different people posting on Twitter talking about how they weren't quite ready to accept his apology. And I think that's his opportunity to show people that, hey, you know what? I'm not this person. It was a momentary lapse of judgment on my part. I'm going to prove to you that I am a better person, and I'm closer to the person you had put up on a pedestal than this person that you caught at a really low point in his life, you know? And that's what I hope we see happen. And that's why I don't want him to jump back into TV. I want to see him do more community-oriented stuff. I want to see him do PSAs and try and talk to more people and do that, you know, because just because you're back in the Hall of Fame doesn't magically erase everything that happens. We've seen that with other people, too. You've got to take a lot of work to rebuild that trust that people have in you. Because you know what? There's part of this group out there, they don't care what Hulk Hogan said. They love him. You know what I mean? They will always love him. But then there's another portion of people out there that, you know what? I don't care who you are, still a heinous thing to say about a certain group of people. And I mean, that's the real problem I have with it.
What you're going to have is when he does make a public appearance, if it's on television, you're going to see the reaction. I mean, you're going to hear it. It's going to get a reaction, and you're going to get that mixture of booze in there. And they may try to clean it up on the audio when they play it back later so you don't hear it, but it's going to be there, and they know that. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't start running them out for the like Make-A-Wish or the Be a Star program.
Which is fine. Those are great programs for him. And that's what they need to do. You know what? And he needs to be out there and talking and helping people and doing that. That's what he needs to do. It's not to get him back on TV, because you know what? Having him back in some sort of fold is fine. He has no contract with him. He's just being acknowledged, and they'd already started acknowledging him as part of the Hall of Fame probably a year ago, if you think about it. He'd started showing up in videos and everything. So this is just going to be the first step. And I imagine, knowing how all these things work, there's probably certain things he's got to hit before they even think of doing merchandise or Legends contracts or anything with this guy. And that's what I hope, is that he takes this opportunity to try and show people he's not that person that we caught at that one moment. And you know what? Prove everybody wrong. Prove those wrestlers wrong that wrote on Twitter about how they weren't quite sure he was being genuine when he gave that apology in the locker room. You know? Yeah,
I read that. They didn't say they wouldn't welcome him back. They just said they weren't quite sure, but they weren't going to ignore him or cast him aside when he did try to come back. They were going to take the wait and see approach and see what happens there. You better believe they have it in contractual writing. Here's what you have to do to meet certain things. There's no way they're going to go out on a limb and just let him come back in and go right back to doing what he was doing.
No,
without any consequences. You know, they're going to have him set in there and make him stand by it, because that's a big, with being publicly traded, there's a lot that goes into bringing someone back like that.
And here's the thing.
It's not the good old boy system anymore.
Well, and here's the thing. Okay, say you're an African-American family. You've got a young boy or a young daughter. How do you explain to them that a guy like Hulk Hogan is in, on TV, featured prominently after what he said? And that's where you have to think really hard why they, being publicly traded, but they've also got to think about the fans. How many people will look at that and go, whoa, don't tell me you're bringing this guy back right now. And that's why it's got to be slow. I mean, if he's going to come back, you've got to know that this guy tried his best to prove everybody that he's not that person. That's what I worry about, because sometimes they just go, whatever. I mean, you think about some of the crap that's been on TV over the years with Vince, and there's always been slight overtones of racism, no matter what. I mean, you think about some of the characters he's done and the things that have, the storylines. That's why I worry a little bit about this.
Well, I mean, like you said, there's always been all those storylines and different things. There's always been that thin line that they've always walked. And there's been some things that are just, tasteless.
And that's true, yeah.
Lack of a better word. I mean, there's been some things that have been on in the form of entertainment that now that I'm older, I'm like, man, how did I get away with watching that?
I agree with you, yeah.
There's something there. I mean, there, like you said, and I'm always been a Hulk Hogan fan, still am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was excited to hear that they let him back in. But I'm just waiting and watching, just kind of curious as to what the future holds.
Well, and that's all you can do. Like I said, we all can't dismiss anyone ever, because everyone is deserving of a second chance. You know what I mean? We talked about
Sure.
it. We all make mistakes, and that's it. This is his second chance, and I hope he's able to use it for what it's really there, not just to get a paycheck and be back in the public eye, because we've heard the stories over the years of Hulk Hogan wanting to put himself over. Use this to become a better person, and that's all I hope. I mean, you know what? Never my favorite guy growing up. I was always a Bret Hart guy, but, you know, he was still a big part of my childhood. And,
right.
You know, to have him not present in a lot of these things, you know, kind of lets it like it's hollow, but you got to prove yourself, man. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to prove yourself. And I hope he does it for his sake and for the WWE's sake, because together they can write a whole new chapter and kind of make people forget about a lot of stuff that's happened over the years. We love wrestling, but as times have changed, social media and all these things have taken shape, you know, we're smarter now. You know, yes, people are digging up stuff, but that's because we're all smarter. We were dumb and we didn't know and we weren't wise and how it hurt people, but we're all smarter now. And that's why, you know, hopefully they can use this too to do a better job.
By God, it's a hot tag!
All right, we're going to finish up our show as usual with the hot tag. Tom, I'll go ahead and go first, okay? And what I want to ask you is your thoughts on Impact Wrestling.
They are coming back with a vengeance, I would say. I mean, they had their Slammiversary show, which a lot of people were highly praised.
I watched it, man. It was awesome.
Well, that's what I heard. I didn't get to see it. I've been trying to catch up on parts since then, but the talent they have, they've loaded up on young talent, and a lot of those people are going to be showing up at All In Weekend, and I'm impressed.
Well, and I think what helps them too is a lot of these folks were part of Lucha Underground, which everybody loves, and I think giving them character development and Impact has helped them, and getting rid of the old and trying to get away from a lot of the old WWE stars they used to bring in has helped them kind of find their footing in the landscape of professional wrestling.
The cross promotions, I think, is the greatest idea in wrestling.
I've been watching some of those on Twitch.
Yeah, they've been amazing. I mean, granted, a lot of your talent pool that people are drawn to might be from other promotions, but all you're doing is building each other up, which I think is a great idea, because that's the only way you can compete in this market with the juggernaut of the WWE on one side and everybody else trying to stay afloat on the other. All right, my hot tag, belts. That's my topic. Any belt. Do you think they matter anymore?
Well, we know which belt doesn't mean shit, and that's the Universal title right now. If I have to look and say if there's any belts that truly matter to me, the IWGP belt, heavyweight belt, to me is probably the belt that means the most right now in professional wrestling. And that's just a lot to do, too, with how long Okada held it and with Kenny Omega hanging on to it now. AJ Styles has done a pretty good job with his belt, too. I mean, yeah, Jinder had it for a while, whatever. But I think with AJ Styles keeping the championship for such a long, that's helped that belt out. The Raw championship doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't think anybody cares. I hate to say it, but I really don't care about the Ring of Honor champion that much either. I will say, though, that right now the NWA is killing it in bringing back that belt and making 10 pounds of gold matter, because having that... I was
going to bring that up.
Well, I mean, having that be the main event of All In, and with Cody Rhodes a chance to do something no one else has ever done, and that'd be a father and son hold the belt. You know, their video vignettes they've been doing are just, they don't have a TV show really, but those little vignettes popping up in Ring of Honor, popping up in some of these other federations. I think they were just down in your area not too long ago.
Yes, they were.
That's the thing that's helping them. And it's kind of cool to see a different way to promote an organization that really, I guess, for a latter term, they're not really a wrestling organization. It's just a couple people and a belt. That's what they are.
Well, they're making that belt an actual world title, because they're taking it everywhere to defend it in all promotion. I mean, he was Aldous was down in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which for me that's about an hour drive, and defended the belt there in their local promotion.
Yep.
And you know, actually, matter of fact, Flip Gordon was down there and he lost to Marco Stunt, who is one of their heavyweight contenders. Looks like he's about $125. And since he won, he got booked for All In. So he's All In before Flip.
That's awesome.
CCW Wrestling is what it is. It's
okay.
Cape Championship Wrestling. So everyone needs to check that out. They do an awesome job.
Yep. And that's right now, that's what I think for belts, though. I mean, WWE's got a long way to go. And if they think keeping it on Lesnar makes us care, we don't. I mean, the belt is completely useless to us.
Well, the other thing with the belts, when they changed those designs where one was red and one was black, they completely watered it down. There's no...
I miss the big gold belt.
Yeah. They're just watered down, generic. They look like something you buy at Walmart for your kids to play with. There's nothing that says, hey, that's the world title. That's the other, that's the Intercontinental. I mean, the plates, changing the plates, I could care less about the plates.
Yeah.
That just not the same.
All right. So for you, we just started to talk about a little bit. What's your thoughts on Flip Gordon and this whole promotion with All In?
I like Flip Gordon, and I like what they've been doing. Every time you think he's got a shot, something happens, and he can't seem to win, and he's had multiple opportunities. And I know Cody just had a YouTube video where he talked about Flip, and he's actually changed his tune now, but he's already telling him it's too late. He had his 2 opportunities, and it's just too late. That last chance he had against Aldis, that was a great match.
Yeah. And you know what the great part too? He's only been wrestling for 3 years. 3 years. Yeah, that's it.
Crazy.
Well, and it's funny because being the elite is kind of the same kind of machine. They decide to put their weight behind a wrestler. They're making these people superstars just by having a YouTube show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing about that YouTube show is it gets, I don't know how many views, but I know it's blown up in the last year or more.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they continue storylines through it. I would love to see, now this is my prediction with Flip for All In. He'll be there. He may not be on the card, but I look for him to cost Cody the NWA Championship. That's my guess.
Okay. All right.
Finish her up. I'd be at a loss if I didn't mention the 3 wrestlers that passed away this week and your thoughts. We had Brian Christopher, Brickhouse Brown, and then, of course, the late, great Nikolai Volkov.
Now, unfortunately, in my age, I missed out on Brickhouse. I did read a little bit about him in Jim Ross's book, how he was going to be the guy to take over for the Junkyard Dog, but I didn't really know much about his career. Brian Christopher, I mean, it's Brian Lawler. He's Jerry Lawler's son. And I haven't had a chance to go back yet, but I hope there's tape where you can see a lot of the Memphis wrestling. I read an article that was on Deadspin, and they talked about how before he made his way to WWE, he was probably one of the best heels in the territories for a while. And, what we got was, kind of that turned up to 11, funny laugh thing, kind of over the top cartoon character. But they said he had such a charisma about him that he was the perfect heel. And him and Jeff Jarrett worked together for like 6 months. And because, Lawler and Jarrett's dad owned that territory together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's something I need to go back and look at and take a look at because, I mostly remember for his Too Much and Too Cool personas. And, they were fun, but there wasn't anything groundbreaking. And as for Nikolai Volkov, I mean, had a chance to interview him about 17 years ago. Just the nicest guy. And from what I've read all over, probably one of the best genuinely nice people. I heard Bruce Pritchard talk about it. I heard a few other wrestlers talk about it. They said you always knew where Nikolai's room was in the hotels because he brought a hop pad plate with him, and he would always fix his dinner in his hotel room. But yeah,
well, everything I heard about him too was that generally one of the nicest human beings you ever want to meet. As always, we thank you for tuning into the show. You can find us on Twitter, Under the Ring Report, and please like, subscribe, do what it is you do. We appreciate everyone.
Call Tom names.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that'll do it for this week on Under the Ring Report.
Hello, this is B. Brian Blair, formerly the Killer Bee in the World Wrestling Federation, and you're listening to the Under the Ring Report.
Follow the Under the Ring Report on Twitter at UTRR Podcast. You can subscribe to the Under the Ring Report on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, or visit undertheringreport.com. Thanks for listening to the Under the Ring Report.